published and it is available on the public access portal.
There you go. Yeah, you can go and have an avid read if you fancy. Okay, thank you, Councillor Tristan. Councillor Reynolds, over to yourself.
Yeah, I totally agree with the comments made by Councillor Cusack and Councillor McCusker. This is much needed accommodation, both social housing and for the supported living. I do believe that, and in fact I know that other sites were looked into for the supported living in various of it.
So that cars are not parking across access routes or junctions. Oh, Councillor Dawson, do apologise.
Sorry, I just wanted to check on the highways. I'm getting access to the green space on the north side of the A6. Obviously the A6 is a really busy road, and top of Oakcliff Lane's always been a problem turning it. It's safe for children, you know, to get across the A6, a pedestrian crossing, another thing. I know it can be up to the local council through the local highways committee to raise these points, but I really recommend that, because I know from experience that A6 is a very, very busy road here to get across.
I think that's what we should add to our. We can't ask this site to fix all crossings of the A6 within that area. It's beyond the scope of this mitigation. But we have, what you can see through this, there is a request for the yellow line, which is entirely from us. But we have ensured that will be put forward, and that process will be due and to mitigate this development. And that's all we can ask it to do. But what we will do for the informative is ask highways, and that resources locally are towards that, and we will also ask that any junction safety protection measures within the immediate vicinity are taken seriously. So if we could have that as an informative, Mr. Williams, I'd be very grateful. As I said, moved and seconded for approval with that extra informative. All in favour of that? Anyone? Any abstentions? Okay, ladies and gentlemen,
I'm not sure if my presentation is showing up yet.
Yes, we have your presentation, I do believe. I know you can't maximise it, but I'm sure Mr. will at some point.
You ready for me to start, Chair?
We don't have a maximised screen, sadly. I do need to make sure that members do have a maximum screen. Thank you so much. Soon over to you yourself. You have the floor.
Members, this application relates to drive, and the application is for a change of use from a single family building to a house people. I can't see on your side, Chair, so I'll wait a few seconds to speak. This is the red line plan. The location, surrounding dwellings are largely semi-detached with some First Drive, the property served from Wilton Road to the west. That leads down to Eccles Road. It's a short distance from Salford Royal Hospital. So this next slide is members with understanding of the site. So it's this, which is the site. It's a 4-bedroomed, semi-detached property with a garage, and you can see 2 vehicles immediately in front and a private garden to the rear. Proposed floor plans. There are no external alterations proposed to the building, and a communal living and kitchen dining area to the rear of the property will be retained in addition to the 2 off-road car parking spaces, and there will be 1 bedroom downstairs. First floor plans, as is there will be 4 bedrooms there, and the size of the bedrooms and the shape and the fact that they are served by decent of other known houses in multiple occupation in the that the character is largely things, and therefore one of the considerations is whether the change of use of this property would lead to an overconcentration of such uses. That's not something that the officers feel would be the case, and in fact the introduction of the HMO would provide accommodation for those people with the city. So in terms of there's no highway safety. As I've just said, it would improve the housing mix in the area, and there is off-road storage for amenity residents, and therefore Chair is recommended for approval.
Thank you very much. Miss Susan Vaughan. Please come forward. Both the silver buttons do the same job, so if you just press one of them, it will turn the microphone on. Is that okay? Where you reside, it just helps with context.
Okay, my name is Sue Vaughan and I live at 4A Vestris Drive, and I've lived there for over 20 years.
No problem. 10 minutes, is that okay?
Yeah. Representing the views, some of them would have liked to have been here to speak in person, but we didn't get the letters about notification of the meeting until today. Plans on the we had access to in January, but the document shows confusion between the plans and the documents attached to the agenda. The residents of Vestris Drive is a short road gone by a family that lived at number 6. Some of us have got children minutes walk away, others have got grand community on Vestris Drive and the surrounding area. Hence the support we received an Vestris Drive, look out for one another and socialise. When there was a house fire, in 2 houses on Vestris, neighbours were rescued who were overcome by sweat arrived.
Take your time. Okay. Please.
After the door, as for you, for example, we at 4A did the shopping for our elderly neighbours, and for 12 months during lockdown until it died. Other neighbours helped when the elderly neighbours fell, which was on a fairly regular basis. There are 3 properties immediately opposite number 6 where residents have severe health issues and require carers. And those living nearby are very aware of the possible help that these residents may need. Neighbours bring in one another's bins, will leave their keys with one another when they go on holiday, and keep an eye on the properties. There are also approximately 16 children on the road who enjoy playing together. Some neighbours get together socially on a regular basis, but larger numbers of residents of all ages pre-COVID met for barbecues and street parties. There are currently about 38 adults living on Vestris Drive. The plan for an HMO with 5 double bedrooms, with the number of occupants potentially rising to 10, would mean that a significant number of adults on the street would live in one property and change the nature of the community. Given the low quality of the HMO planned, small double bedrooms, one tiny bathroom, and one kitchen for cooking and laundry, and the reputation of the investment and the management company was showing their tenants scam, the tenants are likely to be not interested in the house in which they live. There would be an increase in activity with recycling and litter. Some residents are concerned about a possible increase in immediate activity, which is an area. A particular concern for those living in soundproofing between the properties. They have a school-aged child. 5 family they lead a different lifestyle, a family living, and there would be possibly more antisocial noise and disruption for the school-aged children, the other side of the adjoining wall. There also likely to be noise and disruption on the road. A major concern for residents is the dangerous bend where Voltaire Road joins 6 sits on this bend. The road to the junction of Lancaster and Eccles Old Roads, especially at peak periods, and as a cut through by pedestrians. By the house owner, Ben was contacted in 2018 about possible traffic calming measures, but in place. And it's SUVs and the coaches that there are vehicles parked actually not see, including the children who use the hospital, seen by drivers. And plans for number 6, so 5 bike anchors to the rear boundary of the property against a... The boundary is in fact marked, which we at 4A maintain, and isn't strong enough for and about a metre. So getting past the dustbins to get out. The plans for parking for one part garage and one car parked in front of the garage door. Driveway. This is one car would have to move onto the road to enable the second to park. If 2 of more cars, they'd have to park on the road near the recommended. Residents recognise that there is a need for a variety of housing in the area. Vestris Drive itself consists of small family-sized homes. Very nearby are 1- and 2-bedroom flats and a hostel. A number of properties. Quality accommodation. The existing house is 4-bedroom. The garage has been converted large, and the plans are for a tiny bathroom and need of maintenance and structural work. 1 bedroom of the garage would only be part of it would be converted into WC. There is no plan for a downstairs WC to serve the ground floor bedroom, and no bedroom as a water phone later is going to the plans in more detail and will inform the company record of care for their maintenance of their, and as mentioned, the house is in need of some money and in people. There appears to be East and Seedley. We cannot see there is a need for more rooms to rent, especially of low standard, when there are many rooms advertised, but is now as it is for sale to cash buyers. Estate agents report the need for houses, and we see remain a family home.
Been through all the concerns that have been laid out by the neighbours, obviously that everyone has also just heard as well. The property itself isn't going to go through any external renovation, adding of a WC upstairs. Sizes they would do would be sold to a throughout with a local property will be going pretty much back to starting again onto structural works that's needed in the property. With tenants. We're looking for tenants that NHS staff, residents, we'll be looking at that we have in all the major cities in the UK. Along with the plan, the site plans.
Danielle, would you be so kind to turn off the microphone? Thank you. I believe we've got Miss Councillor Pevitt. Miss Edwards. Councillor Pevitt, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can indeed, Councillor Pevitt. Councillor Pevitt, you have your 5 minutes when you get started.
Okay, good morning. Yeah, 6 Mistress Drive, nice little family area. It's quite residential street. There's very limited off-road parking as there is a parking permit scheme. So 5 adults fitting into a house would probably not get 5 permits. The drive garage is very small and they're saying they're going to use the garage for bike racks and no students. Strange, really, looking at the other comments from past residents of this company. The company itself, the partners, one of the other companies is Grant, who have previously come to us applying for planning permission. When we say, well, he's local as well, local in the area, well, currently there's 89 properties within a half-mile radius, which is pretty local, really, for the area, with rooms available. That's a possible 445 rooms, if my maths are correct, that are available within the area. If not, a minimum of 89 rooms, so quite a few. Many of these appear not to be licensed either. So there's another problem we've got. We've got licensing, but unfortunately, many properties have been converted to HMOs without a license or indeed planning permission in the past. And there's a severe, so I will look now at the area again, severe shortage of affordable family homes in Salford, and this conversion, this house removes yet another property from the vital area of housing stock. Particularly serious problem for families with young children, as the property is within 5 minutes walking distance, 2 primary schools, and 10 minutes from St John's as well. It's also near several parks, with 5 minutes to Salford Maternity Unit, and 2 minutes drive from Salford Royal Hospital. And it's a road which is relatively safe for children in the cul-de-sac end. In short, an ideal location for a family home. Small 4-bedroom terrace, perfect for families when the price bracket has unfortunately now some reason been taken out of the market for a mortgage, but was cash buyers. When I've looked at the plans themselves portray it cheap conversion, popular with landlords wanting to make a lot of money with minimum outlay. Say just putting in one extra toilet and a bathroom 4 metres squared for 5 professionals, as you would say. Students probably wouldn't mind, but I think professionals going out of a morning, a small bathroom 4 metres squared, you'd have to put your name on a rota, probably take you 2 hours possibly for all people to get through. So it's not very good, it's not very big. Okay, further to this, we have regular complaints from residents about the amount of litter these houses generate and constant change of tenants can have a detrimental effect on the community as a whole, which is a long-standing community which again creates problems. When the houses are multiple occupation, overflowing bins, wrong items put in wrong bins, so bins being left unemptied due to contamination. Finds a regular complaint about HMOs. This area parts this problem with bins can lead to vermin contamination as well. In other areas where HMO have been established, we don't want this for our residents to suffer through no fault of their own. Say parking on the street is an issue. Other issues are raised currently. Salford City Council issues to landlord licensing for shared homes. Unfortunately, a lot of shared homes have not bought into this, or a lot of landlords haven't bought into this. And this move comes after inspections over the last 12 months. Smaller homes in multiple occupations show issues with fire safety, damp, heating, along with problems overstoring, disposal of domestic waste, leading to complaints from neighbours. 92% of 3 and 4 bedroom households inspected showed problems, ranging from missing to inadequate fire alarm systems, despite being a legal requirement, missing or damaged fire doors, inadequate or blocked escape routes, insufficient measures to prevent fire and smoking spread. Over a third were damp or suffering from mould because of leaky roofs or roof, and a third had no or inadequate heating.
You have a minute left, Councillor Perry.
A minute, thank you. An HMO will not be in keeping with the area, as primary families will remove from the market a much needed family home in the Salford area. So it's a given ideal proximity to local schools. Further to this, the company is based in Edinburgh, and so local management is a problem, no local contacts. Other problems, obviously, landlords looking at the reviews of this company as landlords, a major negative, not a good one. A couple of reviews I've got. Rent a property for at your own risk. At least they said the property I rented was bills included on their website, but after paying all their fees, they ended up saying it's not bills included. Secondly, I had an issue with the shower in the kitchen sink hole. They sent a plumber and only just poured a chemical into the hole. I received from the agency was to send me an invoice of £140 to pay. If I don't pay, they'll take my deposit. Another one, many things wrong with the house when we moved in, extremely difficult to get in contact with them to get things fixed. Eventually we moved out after a year and still things weren't fixed, such as a used mouldy wall. They've now stolen a large portion of my deposit, probably thinking it's okay because we are students, but we left the house in pristine condition apart from the mouldy wall. They're now replying to our emails regarding our money. It's been over a month for multiple emails, do not use this company. We're now in a new house and the company's amazing, no problems so far. Just awful, been living in a mould infested flat for 5 months, with no one coming to fix it, as well as leaks, rats, damp and horrible neighbours in the same building. Avoid this age at all costs. Now that contradicts what the agency said, saying all people will be known to one another.
That's your
I've got
5
one
minutes
young
now,
lady who
Councillor
actually was asked to find.
Councillor Perry, that's your 5 minutes now. Could you sum up and then I'll...
Summing up, I totally object to this. We already have a number of properties within the local area. Said 89 properties with vacancies. There's not a need for this. Another HMO in Salford. There's a need for 4-bedroom family homes for growing families so they can grow up in Salford. So many of the rooms, especially the bathroom, and I do worry about that living room on the first floor being changed as well. But I totally object on behalf of the neighbours and residents of Veterans Drive.
Thank you, Councillor Perry. Thank you so much. Take care. I'm not good at answering machines or these things at all. Okay, thank you so much for your submissions. We're going to open up to the panel. Councillor McCusker, I see you've indicated. Mr Stevenson, just before bringing Councillor McCusker in, and further members, there is your plans balance sheet in that email that Miss Edwards sent yesterday evening. Councillor Cusack. Mr Stevenson, have we cleared up the drawings?
Okay.
Could we eject Councillor Pevitt from the meeting, please? I mean that in the most sincerest way. it's protocol that after you've spoken as a member, you have to leave the meeting. So whatever that is, it has to, you know. So I mean, I wouldn't dare reject members normally from meetings. But it's the protocol. Are we done? Okay, Mr. Stevenson, have we sorted out the drawings?
Chair, the drawings before members are those that we've got up on screen now. So just to reiterate what I said earlier, we've got 2 communal spaces to the rear, the communal garage. There'll be 1 private bedroom on the ground floor, and then as you move up to the first floor, there are 4 bedrooms there. So those are the plans that members have been asked to consider today.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stevenson. Okay, I've got Councillor McCusker who's indicating. I've got Councillor Cusack. Is anyone else? Okay, Councillor McCusker.
Thanks, Chair. From the residents' description, this sounds like an excellent community. That everyone cares about each other. And I think within such a tight-knit community, there's obviously worries about change. And when I look at the list of objections, a lot of these seem to be on who will be living there or making assumptions about people who live in HMOs, which I think can be very unfair. In terms of the concentration of HMOs, am I right in saying that there is 1 HMO within the area existing?
Mr. Stevenson has shown that on the thing, that's correct.
Yeah. In terms of impact on traffic, the residents talked about Vestris and Voltaire being a rat run to avoid the lights at Lancaster Road, and issues around speeding traffic. I noticed from Google Maps that's clearly road calming. There's road calming measures already on the piers, both Vestris and Voltaire, in terms of humps that I can see on the image, which therefore presume it's a 20-mile-an-hour zone. So, in terms of increased volume of traffic, if it's a rat run and you're adding potentially 5 vehicles, to me, that wouldn't seem to be. So basically, I agree with the highway report. That's not going to add significantly. I was just a bit confused, and I'm not sure it's within our remit, but Councillor Pevitt talks about that it's an area that's got residents' permits scheme. It's paid for by the hospital trust, but that the residents of the HMO wouldn't be eligible. I presume all residents on the street would be eligible for residents' parking.
My understanding, the HMO is entitled to the same amount of parking permits as this house would be if it was occupied by anybody else. So the impact on the highways would not change in permits terms.
Okay, I just wanted to clear that one up. Yeah, to me, the room sizes look okay for a HMO. We've seen far worse at this panel. Given the guidance we've had recently in terms of inspectors' decisions on appeals, I feel that this will be a very, very difficult case to defend to an inspector if we refused it. For all those reasons, I therefore would move that we accept this application. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor McCusker. I've got Councillor Cusack, and Councillor Dalton, and I've got Councillor Reynolds, and Councillor Park. Thank you, Councillor Cusack.
Thank you, Chair. Very surprisingly, Councillor McCusker's made lots of points that I was going to make. I know it's an unusual circumstance. I sympathise deeply with the residents here. I think there are places where HMOs and further developments of family houses are probably unnecessary, possibly could cause rise to problems, but could is the operative word here. And I understand the feelings of the community. However, like Councillor McCusker, I struggled to find grounds that we could refuse this application on. I think that would be very difficult. I know planning law is non-precedential, so I don't think we can necessarily take into account the recent overturn we've had by an inspector. However, it's always at the back of my mind. I would like to say, however, Chair, that the site plan is a little bit misleading in terms of highways, in that it appears that Voltaire Avenue is a side road to Vestris Drive, whereas in fact Voltaire Avenue and Vestris Drive are a single route through, and the extension to Vestris Drive is actually the side road that appears to the south on the plan. That is, from my knowledge, a very, very difficult junction already. I know we can't speculate about the number of vehicles that an HMO might attract, but I do wonder whether we could in fact refer this to highways and ensure that the conditions on this junction are monitored in the future. It's a very well made point that there have been some crashes into the wall on that corner, and as I say, I know from personal experience that is a very difficult junction, and visibility is not easy at the best of times without cars parked on both sides of the road. So given all that, I and reluctantly, because as I've said, I don't think HMOs are always appropriate in residential family settings, but given all that, I feel I have to support Councillor McCuska's proposal and second it, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Guzek. Yeah, we'll make sure that Highways Officers team take it to the local Highways Task Group and you know, this issue, and see what can be done from local budgets.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I'm going to move on to Councillor Dawson. I've got Councillor Reynolds and I've got Councillor Clark.
Thanks,
Councillor Dawson.
Yeah, it's all about what's on the blue sheet on the occupancy of 5. It's really what teeth have we got for this? You know, as things would change. We had a very good comment, you know, during the applicant's contribution. Won't let to couples, so it will maintain 5 and 5, no more than 5. I just, as I said, wondering what enforcement we have if this is exceeded. You know, that couples are allowed to stay in future. You know, because we put it on our drawings in front of us, it's on the sheet, all the other places, but it's really what force of enforcement have we got to make sure that this is done, that it is 5 singles and not 5 couples as stated by the applicant.
As Councillor McCusker and Councillor Cusack alluded to, the Inspectorate has had quite a lot to say about our recent refusals of HMOs, and one of the recommendations was that we could put a bedroom limit in, so the amount of people were allowed to be in the building at any one time, as clearly the Inspectorate believes that every local authority has a bedroom police officer somewhere. I'm not sure that they do, but that's what they have recommended down there from Whitehall, and so now we need to adhere to that, and that's what the council is doing. How it would be enforced, I imagine it would have to go through good management, as well as that our team of licensing, and as well as our enforcement officers team would have to work on that. And as with everything when it comes to enforcement, it's the role of the good public. It's what it is. It's very important, is the role of the good public. But yes, I mean, it might seem a ridiculous condition, but it is come straight from powers that be down at the Inspectorate that it should be good practice. Thank you, Councillor Dawson. Councillor Reynolds and Councillor Clark. Councillor Reynolds, do apologise.
Thank you, Chair. I was personally stunned when I first heard of this HMO application. It's just not a fitting area for it. It's got strong residential community. And it needs more family homes, and a 4-bed family home would be perfect for this. I do understand that there's, with the past, like when we've refused these in the past, that it hasn't gone down well, but I still think there's a strong case for refusal of this. On those grounds, on the the junction as well, Vestris Voltaire Road is a dangerous one. It's been proven to be. And I am happy that this looks like it be looked into, at least if this does go ahead. I still don't like 10.3 metre squared bedrooms. I disagree with Councillor McCusker that I don't think that's a decent size, but again, that in itself wouldn't be enough for refusal. But I would like to move on refusal. It is just not fitting with this community. It does not fit the area at HMO here. You've got not too far away, as Councillor Pevitt puts it, 89 properties locally with rooms available. Some just one, some a few rooms. So there is provision available for those that need a HMO to reside. Therefore, I would like to put forward a motion for refusal on this.
I've got Councillor Clark and I've got Councillor Tresidden. Councillor Clark.
Yeah, I'm going to echo what Neil said, really. It's a really sad day again that a fine family home is being taken out of circulation to turn into 5 bed sits. We have to get over this now. It's not. This is a family home, and it keeps on saying it's a 5-person family home. We're going to put 5 adults in this, not 2 adults and 3 children or whatever. It's 5 lumbering adults in a family home. It could be 10 at any point when they have guests round with the associated paraphernalia of that and them staying over. We've only got 1 mandatory HMO in the area, but yet we know there are others, and I think the document that we produced should actually show the ones that aren't mandatory HMOs to give us a better idea, and I'll second Neil's refusal.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Thank you so much. Okay, Councillor Tresidden.
Thank you. My initial assessment was that the bedrooms are a good size. Having spent 14 years in a 10 metre square bedroom, it felt perfectly roomy enough for me, certainly. And they have a good sized living room space and kitchen dining space. I think as far as space goes, it's one of the best HMOs that I've seen come to this panel. What I would question is the assertion we come back to again and again that it is not appropriate for this area. So it is not appropriate for Claremont, or it is not appropriate for Worsley or Walkden or the various other places that we've had HMOs objected to. Where is an HMO appropriate to? Because as far as I can see, what you end up with is they all go into Pendleton, Charlestown and Weast, where there is most definitely an over-concentration of HMOs, and the houses are smaller. So you end up with smaller bedrooms, smaller living rooms, and smaller kitchens. So I'd like to hear from the people who want to refuse this, how they want to square that circle.
Councillor Tresidden, I'm always up for a good debate. If members want to debate, then please do. That's what we need. Councillor Reynolds.
Yeah, just to make the point to Councillor Tresidden. Yes, this is just on the border of Weast as well. So yeah, so it is just outside that area, but the community in itself is like a family one. As was stated by both Councillor Pevitt and myself just here now, there are 89 properties locally that have rooms available. Unfortunately, they are within Weast. I don't want more HMOs in Weast either, particularly because we've already got those, and Pendleton and Charlestown as well. You do make a good point there, that they do seem to be going into those too. Claremont does have quite a lot of HMOs on the Heights area. There are others elsewhere too. But yeah, here it would be almost unique as a HMO, and it just doesn't fit. That's how I see it.
Thank you, guys. Councillor Warmisham has indicated. I've got Councillor Clark. Councillor Warmisham.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with Councillor Tresidden. Charlestown and Pendleton is just like the HMO capital of Salford. The amount, particularly in Charlestown, because we've got the university, is just Studentsville, and the problems it creates, because as the sort of good lady here who put the case forward mentioned about the residents being transient, is so true, and they don't care about the area and they have no feel for the area. But I am concerned that Pendleton and Charlestown is getting over and above more HMOs, and they are smaller. Every terrace house that comes up for sale now is Bolton, it's a HMO, and it's a real concern. I know we're desperate for housing in the city, and some people want to live in HMOs, but I think at times enough is enough when there's such a concentration in one area. And I have to say, you look at Charlestown, the old terrace streets in Charlestown have changed beyond recognition.
It's always a risk with good debate, keeping it to the subject in hand. This application is on Vestris Avenue, I believe. Vestris Drive. It isn't in Charlestown, and it isn't in Pendleton. We need to stay to the red edge boundary of the application in front of us.
Okay.
That's always the risk with good debate. It's keeping it to the subject.
I will say is that I am concerned that HMOs are in Pendleton and Charlestown, and I understand the objectors' views, and I understand what other members have said. So we will keep it like that, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Wilmington. Got Councillor Clark, and then I've got Councillor Hamilton.
I'm not going to say anything because I'll get myself in trouble.
Oh, okay, no, exactly.
Well, the answer is that no area deserves to be turned into bedsit city in any city in this country, and what we have to do is stop building overpriced tat in city centres that nobody can afford to live in, tower blocks, and drive people out of the city centres who have a right to be able to afford to.
We need to stay to the subject. That's why I do love healthy debate. It's just how we keep that to the subject in hand, which is the red edge boundary of this site on Vestris Drive, which is number 6. Councillor Hamilton.
Thanks, Chair. I'm not going to go out the boundaries either. I'm just going to concur with Councillor Wilmington.
Okay. Okay, members, there's 2 motions on the table. There's one for refusal and it's been seconded, and there's one for approval and that's been seconded. I need to take the one that's contrary to officer's recommendation first. So, Councillor Reynolds, you need to hit me again.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to move for refusal on the grounds that it's just not in fitting with the local community. It is an area that needs more family housing, and
Full value that every time we get an appeal decision, that inspectorates say that a good balance and a mix of housing in an area makes a stronger community. I'm going to move over now to, I believe it's still seconded, that motion. I'm going to move to Mr. Hodgson, who's the lead officer for development management, who will advise members of the merits of the motion. Is that okay?
Thank you, Chair. So just trying to understand, obviously, what Councillor Reynolds has articulated in terms of a ground. I mean, they're statement about it's not in fitting with the local area. As you know, this panel has to then make the next step to say, okay, if that's the case, what is the harm, what harm is created if we're introducing a HMO into this area? Having applied the development plan, the standards, and the standards that we work to, it is very difficult to articulate, and when you look at the recent decision we've had on HMO and the cost decision, the guidance around whether an authority is behaving unreasonably is all around general assertions, inaccuracies. I know this is very blunt in front of you, but that's what an inspector will come to a view having considered an appeal. So it does feel on the surface, I'm afraid to say, Chair, it is more of a generalised assertion that's not necessarily backed up with substantive evidence that we could then demonstrably find such an appeal on those grounds. So I'm afraid to say, Chair, it would be very difficult to substantiate this and would likely lead to an award of cost, Chair.
Thank you, Mr Hodgson. Councillor Reynolds, does the refuse motion still stand from what you've heard?
It does, yes. It was said before the meeting that we could do with knowing exactly what the full concentration is of HMOs throughout the area as well, but that's separate to this. But yeah, I would still like to stand with that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Reynolds. And I believe it still stands, Councillor Clark. Okay, members, it's been moved and seconded for refusal based on the grounds that it's not in keeping with the local community. All in favour of that motion, please show. Anyone against that motion, please show. Okay, members, the motion to refuse has been defeated. There is a motion on the table to move and second the officer's recommendation. I believe that may still stand. Councillor Cusack, Councillor McCusker? I see nods. There is also a motion for an informative to the Highways Department to add an item to the local Highways Task Group about the highways impact around Volta and Vestris, the Volta junction at those two roads. Is that okay? All in favour of that, please show. Anyone against that? And any abstentions? Ladies and gentlemen, the application has been approved. Thank you so much. Members, it's 11:30 and we've been here for a long time and we have got an application more still in this session, but let's take our 15-minute break. We've been here for 90 minutes. We'll start again at 11:45. Is that okay? Mr Williams, could you please put on the screen that...
Okay, Chair, in 5, 4, 3.
Hi there, welcome back to Salford City Council Planning Panel. Miss Edwards, could you just do a roll call of who's in attendance? Would that be okay?
The panel members present are Councillors Bob Clark, Phil Cusack, Jim Dawson, Jane Hamilton, Mike McCusker, Neil Reynolds, Peter Taylor, Phil Tresidern, John Warmisham and yourself, Chairman.
Make that 10 members.
Yes, that's right.
Yes. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Salford City Council Planning Panel. Just before I run through the order of business today, we didn't quite finish all our applications from this morning's, well, earlier this morning's session. So we do need to hear one application, item 5C. So we are a little bit delayed. We had some technical issues, so we ran over by 15 minutes. And members, I always promise members that we don't sit for more than 90 minutes because decision making becomes more harder when you're very uncomfortable. So we need to have a break, and so we did. And so we're back now, and so I'll just run out the order of business very quickly, but we are going to do item 5C and then move on to item 5D, obviously. So you'll see that members, well, there's not very many officers in the room. Officers are presenting digitally via that screen. There are 3 officers in the room. There's Mr Shuttleworth, who's the lead officer for planning policy. There's Mr Hodgson, who's lead officer for development management, and there's Miss Edward, who's a clerk of our panel. Every other officer will be presenting digitally via the screens that you'll see. If you do intend to film or photograph the meeting, can you just do so in such a way as not to stop other members of the public from speaking freely? That's all I ask. And then the COVID-safe protocols now have ended from government legislation, but as you can see, the city is still committed to keeping to such. So if you feel like taking part, then please do. Other than that, please just stay safe. That's all I ask. Okay, over to the order of business. First, the officers will present the planning application. Second, any registered objectors will be invited to speak. Third, any registered agents or applicants will be invited to speak. Fourth, any registered ward councillors, MPs representatives will be invited to speak. Both sides will get 10 minutes each. If there's one speaker, that's 10 minutes for that one person. If there's 2 speakers, it's 5 minutes each. And then if there are 3 speakers, please divide again. Ward councillors, MPs representatives will get 5 minutes each. After then, I'll close from your good selves, pass over to the panel. We'll debate the application on the material planning grounds of the local and national planning policies. After then, we'll finally make a decision, again, on those material planning grounds. I'll invite the members to vote when a motion has been made. If a motion contrary to officer's recommendation has been made, then a senior officer will be brought in before that vote is taken to advise the panel of the merits of such a motion. We will all vote at the same time. In case of a tie, I, the Chair, will have a further casting vote to decide the application. I do hope all that's clear. And decisions will be made today. Those decisions may not please everybody, but I'd like to feel that you feel when you leave this room that you had a fair and equal hearing right throughout the whole of the proceedings. Thank you so much. Okay, members, as I say, item 5C is our next application, pages 49 to 56. It is on your amendment sheet. Mr Stevenson is the presenting officer. Mr Williams, would you be so kind to maximise the screen? Thank you. Mr Stevenson, could you go forward a slide and back a slide? There we go.
Done that, Chair.
Oh, we can hear you as well. Wow, now would you? You have the floor, Mr Stevenson. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair. This next application relates to number 265 Bolton Road in Salford, and as with the previous application, it's the change of use of a single dwelling into a house in multiple occupation for a maximum of 5 occupants. It also includes the erection of a part single, part 2-storey rear extension, which members will see from the agenda has already been approved as part of a house order application back in April 2020, and it's exactly the same design details for that. So this is the application site outlined in red. It's the northern half of a pair of semi-detached properties. You can see it's got vehicular access in from off Acresfield Road here. There is a garage along the common boundary shared with the adjoining property. And this slide on the right hand side gives an indication of the extensions which are to be built on site, which I understand have recently been commenced. This property here with the blue star on it is the application property. You can see as far as from the front, there is a pedestrian footpath to the front door and a garden space to the front as well as to the rear. You can see the garage here that I mentioned in the previous slide. This room would be fitted with obscure glaze covered by its bedroom with a small bathroom. As we move up to the first floor, there will be all with aspect towards the front and rear, and a second bathroom. This plan shows the number of housing multiple occupation vicinity site. And for the reasons set out in the report, Chair, the previous application, there is a recognition that housing occupation do provide a much needed type of accommodation for accommodation, and so the question would lead to an over-concentration or would add to the mix in the area. And it's the officer view that this would make a positive contribution in the area. Concerns with regard to the highway, and there's a rear guard, there's sufficient space for and amenity space for residents, and so it exceeds the size standard set out, and therefore application is recommended for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Objectives present, I don't believe. Nope. Applicants or applicants' agents? Nope. Okay. Ms Edwards, I do have Councillor Pevin to speak on the application.
Online now.
I hope you've got yourself
facilities for that in my classroom.
We'll try better. Councillor Pevin, it's over to you.
Oh. Well, good afternoon. It's over from there. From the Lesson Agency in Salford. It says, for a property investor, HMOs share a fantastic investment. However, become a nightmare. Can result in agent major issues for the landlord. So, even and transient occupation itself is a good reason not to allow the applications. This is one less managed. Currently, I know seeing the immediate vicinity says they're the licensed ones from HMOs. You have 100 down Bolton Road to Barfield and Carlton, about 23 HMOs. Well, okay. Yeah. So there's no drive. There is no on-street parking available. It's on Bolton Road. It's got double yellow lines in front from 2 other primary schools. There's a secondary school 5 away from it. Property due to lack of parking. Also, a couple of the bedrooms may meet the minimum standard size from HMO, but their is usable for the still have space to move around. Similar problems with space 5, which is part of the extension. The old window space, but no spaces in that room. 1.6 having a kitchen 7 for bedrooms at 6.5. These bedrooms are minimum size of 10 metres squared. So dining 11, kitchen 7. That's 18 square metres. So the kitchen diner doesn't actually meet that standard. There's not enough worktop space either. 5 people, it says there should be 1,000 by 500 mil. I get that as 2.5 metres squared. They got 1.8 metres squared.
You have a minute left, Councillor Perritt.
Pardon?
You have a minute left.
Okay, the layout also the also how could a fire occurs. We were never informed about the application in the last 2 years. Requesting work to be done to the kitchen extension. It was constantly leaking and letting water. For the last 6 months, the overhead light in the kitchen away with water damage. Which is restored to light up the building works. Most inconsiderate. They've had dumps blocking out. Looked at here. Okay, so back on you.
Councillor Pevitt, could you sum up now, please?
Yep. Boundary, it's in an insubstantial area. It's already the planning permission for the 2-storey statement. Your neighbours, and it would be. So we've already got 2 homes around that area of Bolton Road.
Thank you, Councillor Pevitt. Disconnect you from the meeting now. You can carry on what.
Okay,
you have a great afternoon.
See you now.
This recommendation is approved. I'm willing to move the office recommendation.
I'm just wondering, could we response to some?
By all means.
I was talking about.
I think Councillor Pevitt was referring to the room sizes.
Square metres. You can the size standards.
Thank you for that. Given the officer's recommendation, you know, this isn't an area.
Thank you for approval. Okay, moving right on, members, to item 5D. This is on your amendment sheet 12.
Good afternoon, Chair.
You have the floor. Thank you so much.
Fantastic, thank you. This is a reserved application associated with the appearance, layout and development to Plot E of the Middlewood. Plot E, the eastern area of the sides by railway lines, which merge towards the northeastern point of the plot. Other plots within the master plan area lie to the immediate. Bisecting the site is east, which lie earlier to the south is part of the restored with some ground floor commercial. Phase decent aerial image of the site. Phases 2 can be seen to the west. The car parking. The outline approved a series of parameters for the site and for each individual plot. For Plot E, the unit approved uses. Reserved Matters application seeks approval to accommodate 12 2-bedroom, 8 3-bedroom apartments. The development comprises of 2 slender blocks and part 27 stories, and block E2 stories. A landscaped podium will link the 2 buildings at first floor above an undercroft car park, and high quality public rail will be delivered around the buildings. The vehicular access into the car park, back of house and servicing areas are discreetly located. The undercroft car park accommodates parking space for 48 vehicles, including 3 accessible bays, 3 motorcycle spaces, 140 resident bicycle spaces, and access to the building cores and bin stores. At ground and first floor, there is a series of resident amenity spaces and commercial units. They're shown in yellow, and they're located in areas that will ensure good levels of activity and natural surveillance over the street and public realm. First floor apartments that front onto the podium will have semi-private gardens with direct access onto the podium. The buildings of Plot E will feature articulated facades with an appropriate rhythm of regular full-height windows and a combination of recessed and bolt-on balconies. The use of balconies, fenestration and brick banding gives the towers a clear top, middle and bottom, which I've tried to show on these slides here. The balconies are intended to be finished in a mix of concrete effect and corten effect bases and balustrades. The buildings will share strong characteristics, linking them together as a coherent development. This image shows how the development to plot E in the background will integrate with the neighbouring plot N in the foreground, and the reserved matters application for plot N is running concurrently with this one and will be presented separately in this meeting. The wider Territory B side of the master plan area as a whole offers great prospects for providing significant areas of public realm. Earlier phases have demonstrated the quality of public realm that the applicant has committed to, and this image shows what will be delivered alongside both plot E and plot N. As some members may be aware, it's the aspiration of the railway owners, the archway owners, to develop the arches for occupation by commercial, retail and leisure uses, and the public realm around plot E and plot N has been designed with these future aspirations in mind. The site's context presents many opportunities for individual character areas, which are shown on this image. In the space where the railway arches merge, this area will be known as the Nook, a relatively secluded area in comparison to the rest of the site, but still well overlooked by the commercial units. Leading south from the Nook, between the building edge and the arches, is the railway walk, a linear area envisaged to become active with patrons of the commercial units within plot E and eventually by visitors of the redeveloped arches. Located between plots E and N is a large civic square. This space will link all public realm character areas together and is intended to act as a flexible event space, as well as a key landing space and gateway into the Middle Woodlocks development once a pedestrian and cycle link within one of the arches is opened up. The civic square will be found of high quality paving, planting, fixed seating, timber tree planter seating and decorative wayfinding and signage. The majority of the civic square sits within the red line boundary of the plot N development, but as the tall 32-storey building abuts this space, officers consider it important that this space is delivered prior to the occupation of the plot E buildings. The applicant has agreed to this sequencing, which is secured by making an amendment to a condition on the outline that relates to the delivery and occupation of plot E. There is also a canal side park proposed with plot N. In addition to these public realm areas, residents will also have access to landscape podium and roof terraces to the roofs of the lower blocks. These following images are CGIs of the public realm areas to show the applicant's intent. So this is the Nook, railway walk, the civic square. Since the publication of the report, an update has been made to condition 3, which relates to the parking management strategy and adds a requirement for the applicant and the LPA to agree the number of residential units that will form part of the parking review prior to the review being undertaken. The proposal accords with the parameters and design codes secured by the outline application and will continue to deliver high quality development, including areas of true public realm and enhancing permeability and key linkages through this area. The application is recommended for approval with conditions as listed on pages 72 to 76 of the main report, with some detail and an additional condition provided in the amendment sheet. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Smith. Thank you so much. Do have actors in the room? No? Okay. Mr. Ralph, I've been informed that you're the only speaker from the applicants and applicant's agent side. That's good. Mr. Ralph, you have 10 minutes to speak. Do you need 10 minutes?
I don't need long at all now.
Okay.
Thank you.
5 minutes, is that okay?
Yeah, it'll be less than that, Chair, but thank you anyway.
Over to you, good self.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, councillors, for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Mike Ralph, I'm a partner at Zero, and we've been the planning consultants for Scarborough Group, who've brought forward the Middle Woodlocks development for the last 10, 11 years or so. I'm here today with Paul Kelly because obviously this is an important scheme for my client and also an important scheme for the city and also the residents who now live in the area and those who've always lived in the area. Over the last 9 years or so, we've presented this committee many times from our initial applications which look to revisit a previous historic approval through our own outline approval in 2016, and since then we've had 3 previous reserve matters approvals for phase 1, 2 and 3 of the scheme in 2018, 19 and 20. As you can therefore see, there's been a real hunger and an appetite both for the council to work with the developer and for the developer to work with it to bring forward development at pace. The first of those 2 phases, totaling around 1,100 units, are built out on site And Ms Smith mentioned the third phase is about to start shortly. It's probably going to be around the end of this month, which again is a great landmark moment for the scheme in moving on to phase 3. Today's applications for plot A, and I'll cover plot N very briefly as well, even though I know it's a separate item, as Ms Smith said, fully consistent with the parameters for each plot, which is an important starting point because a lot of the historic work regarding this development has already been done in terms of fixing building positions, maximum heights, nature of the land uses, numbers of units, etc. As with the remainder of the scheme, most of our debate with officers is therefore focused upon the really important grain of the development in terms of the spaces, the public realm, the activities at street level, the connectivity beyond the development, and the materials within the scheme. And I say that not want to trivialise the importance of the scheme itself, but as hopefully members who know the scheme well would endorse, one of its greatest qualities has been the attention that's been paid to the detail and the quality of the spaces around the buildings, which we know has been welcomed not just by people who've moved here now, but also those people who 10 years ago we would have in dialogue with to make sure that their interests were looked after. And this was a contributor to a new neighbourhood of existing and new, not just an island development in its own right. Because of the successes of all that, I just wanted to end very briefly by putting on record how grateful we always are to the case officers we work with, because it's their input into that process which tests matters, which adds other ingredients, which gives different opinions. And as a result, we always know that the end product is much stronger and much more successful as a result. We have a huge team of people, so do you, and your team is equally important to the process, and they should be applauded for the way that the development is then tested and then ultimately, hopefully, is approved and gets built. So, as always, we wanted to be here today because it's important to us and to you. And we wanted to make sure, because we know the committee makeup's changed quite a lot over that 10-year journey we've been on, that if anybody had any questions of us, and then we're perfectly happy to answer them. But thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Thank you so much. All the gold seats at the same price.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers. Okay, members, we've had numerous officers' briefings on this in the past, so we're very versed for the site. Is there anybody willing to move the officer's recommendation? Councillor McCusker.
I'm willing to move this. Obviously, the public realm in this whole development has been, first class, really. And this is once again adding to that, and hopefully giving reason for the arches to be reanimated, which I think will be make it an even more excellent neighbourhood. Again, it's a quality building, so I just move that, Chair.
Yeah, I believe this is a lost and forgotten space. I mean, to get Greengate off the floor, it's to take down some railway arches, and this for this, it's basically what's going to be called the future Nook has been a devastated place because of the railway infrastructure, and just because we don't have tunnels in this city. But to see a development come forward and hopefully give those archways, which could just be such a magnificent economic achievement for our local area through jobs and services and amenities, to give that an opportunity to come in the future is a great thing. Councillor Cusack and Councillor Warmshire.
Thank you, Chair. I support this application. It's high quality design, it's high quality urban living, it's creating a village, an urban village environment that I think all the residents of the area at the moment thoroughly appreciate. It's a great contribution to the city. It recognises very much our part as a portion of the urban core, in that it's an appropriate development in the area that it is in. And I have no hesitation whatsoever, Chair, in seconding the motion for approval.
Councillor Warmshire, then got Councillor Tresidder.
Thanks, Chair. If you're an old Salfordian like me, you remember Middlewood Locks and how it used to be barren and derelict and awful, and then we have the grand idea of a big snow centre and skiing, etc. But you look at it now and it's just changed beyond recognition. And so I've sort of really welcomed this, and I think as to echo your words, to actually bring the arches in as well, it'd just be fantastic. So, yeah, I'm fully supportive of this scheme, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Mumsham. Councillor President.
Thank you. Generally, there's not much not to like. The scheme in the middle of locks is generally very good. If I had one question about parking vision is very low, and part of that is because there's an expectation of a multi-storey car park coming into existence later on. What happens if that consent doesn't go ahead? Are we just stuck with very low levels of parking provision?
I was going to ask members to give them some work and delegate to the senior officer in consultation with the chair, make sure that we do get what the adequate requirements are, if you wouldn't mind. I don't mind doing that bit of work, okay? Because there'll be my guess is there's going to be a future outline application, and we need to make sure that provision's in there, just like what we did with Media City. I think there's always the appropriate requirements. So you will get some buildings, as you've seen in other parts of the city, where you don't have any parking, but there is parking for master plan, and that's where the appropriate space is. So that's what I want to achieve for the panel. So if you'd be so kind to charge me with that, I'll go away and do that work. Is that okay? Members, also, plus with condition 3 to a senior officer in consultation with the chair, would you delegate the materials, the public realm, the landscaping? And also, would you delegate that to at the moment, this site is still under the viability phases and the test of that viability. And I do believe that I think the chair and the lead member should have a briefing from officers of where that's up to on each stage and each phase with the future site, and make sure we always want more. We will, that's so. The officers are given as the lead member and the chair report about where we're up to with the viability of each phase, and when we will start 106 monies. That would be very kind of you. Is that okay? But yes, I couldn't welcome the site just as much as you guys, and I really do hope that we can get the archways and make those public spaces really, and as Mr. Ralph said, the connectivity this site to the rest of the city, breaking down the boundaries of those massive railway arches will be absolutely key to the success of this site. Okay, members, it's been moved and seconded for approval with the said conditions delegated to the chair by the officer in consultation with the can't do anything to the chair. You can just give me the hard work to do, but I didn't get to make any decisions. You guys make the decisions. All in favour of that, please show. Anyone against? And any abstentions? Its application's been approved. Thank you so much. Okay, Ms Smith, moving right on to the next item, which is item 5E. Again, our Middlewood Locks. And this is on your amendment sheet, I do believe, again, members, and it's pages 77 to 96. Ms Smith?
Yeah, I'm just changing presentations.
No
excuse me.
That's
Knocking
okay.
things over.
William,
Right, can you see that one?
There we go. There we go. I can hear you. Can you go forward a slide, back a slide, just make sure everything's working? Yeah, there you go. Over to you.
Okay, thank you. So some of this presentation will be slightly repeated from earlier, but just please bear with me. So this is a reserved matters application associated with an outline consent seeking approval of the appearance, landscaping, layout and scale of development to Plot N of the Middlewood Locks master plan area. Plot N is located to the east of the Middlewood Locks site, adjacent to a stretch of railway arches and adjoining the edge of the restored canal. Other plots within the master plan area lie to the immediate north, south and west, and bisecting the site is East Odsa Lane. As already seen today, this is a relatively recent aerial image of the site showing phases 1 and 2, the consented phase 3 and the undeveloped territory B. And again, just a brief run through of phases 1 and 2, the consented phase 3, the outline master plan. So the vast majority of the master plan area was consented under one large outline application, but Plot N is subject to its own outline consent, although submitted by the same applicant with the intention that the site is considered as one whole development. So this application seeks approval of 250 apartments. The development will accommodate 119 one-bedroom apartments, 118 two-bedroom apartments and 13 three-bedroom apartments. The development comprises of one L-shaped block ranging from 11, 12, 13 and 15 stories. A south-facing landscaped podium at first floor will sit above an undercroft car park, and high-quality public realm will be delivered around the building. The vehicular access into the car park, back of house and servicing areas is discreetly located. The undercroft car park accommodates parking space for 29 vehicles, including 3 accessible bays, 4 motorcycle spaces, 124 resident bicycle spaces and access to the cores and bin stores. At ground floor, there are a series of commercial units, shown in yellow, located in areas that will ensure good levels of activity and natural surveillance over the street and public realm. And ground floor residential units, shown in blue, will have doors to the street and small front gardens. First floor apartments that front the podium will have semi-private gardens and direct access onto the podium. The buildings to Plat M will feature articulated facades with an appropriate rhythm of regular full-height windows and a combination of recessed and bolt-on balconies. The use of balconies, fenestration and brick banding gives the building a clear top, middle and bottom. The development will be finished in a mixture of light and dark grey brick and Corten effect panelling to differentiate each element of the building. And the buildings will share strong characteristics with Plot E, linking them together as a coherent development. And again, there's the image just to show how the two will integrate with each other. And again, as seen earlier on, the Territory B side offers great prospects for significant areas of public realm. I'm not going to repeat what's provided with E, but as you can see with N, the public realm has been designed with the future aspirations of the archways in mind. And leading south from the Civic Square, members will be aware that the arches are coming forward, hopefully. And the Civic Square will act as a gateway and a landing space. And as with Plot E, it's the intention that the Civic Square will be delivered with whichever plot is built out first. The Canal Side Park is a significantly sized, rich green space taking advantage of the waterside setting. The park will include amenity lawns, terraces, seating, pathways, tree and scrub planting, and natural play elements and a trim trail. The overall ratio of landscaping to building footprint is a standout feature of this development, offering extensive areas of true public realm and a green setting within a city centre urban location. And as with Plot E, the parking management condition has been updated. The proposal accords with the parameters and design code secured by the outline application and will continue to deliver high quality development, including areas of true public realm and enhancing permeability and key linkages through the area. So this application is also recommended for approval with conditions as listed on pages 91 to 94 of the main report, and again some detail on the amendment sheet. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Smith. Mr Ralph, is it just questions this time? Thank you. Okay, members, it's been a officer's recommendation for approval. Could I just ask that, it's on the same site as Middlewood Locks, it's right next door. Could I ask that you delegate, if we do approve it, the same set of conditions to the senior officer in consultation with the chair as you did with the previous application, including the car parking provision, as Councillor President said. Councillor McCusker, so you've indicated.
Yeah, just to say, I know this one, Chair.
And Councillor Cusack?
As per the last one, Chair, I second unreservedly.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded for approval with those said extra conditions, well, not extra conditions, those said delegated conditions. All in favour, please show. Oh, anyone against? Any abstentions? Ladies and gentlemen, it's been approved. Mr Ralph, we really look forward to seeing you deliver the challenge of getting all those archways into full activity and regenerated and bringing some real jobs and a local stronger economy than we've got on this side. It would be fabulous. So thank you so much. Look forward to it. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next item, members. Item 5F. Ms Ramsden, I do believe. And members, there is a final balance sheet in an email that Ms Edwards sent yesterday. And that final balance sheet starts with 5F. And it's pages 97 to 124 on your agenda, and I don't believe this is on the amendment sheet. Ms Ramsden, can I hear you yourself?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Could you go forward a slide and back a slide?
Certainly can. 1 second. That worked.
Oh, it flashed and back. Yes, that seems to be going. A little bit of a lag, but I'm sure you'll find the timing just right as you go. You have the floor, Ms. Ramsden.
Okay.
Really good stuff.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Members, this application relates to a site off Derwent Street. Planning permission is sought for the erection of a 17-storey building comprising of 160 residential units, together with ancillary gym and communal space, together with improvements to public realm, landscape, car parking and associated works. The application site covers an area of 0.24 hectares and is situated at the end of Derwent Street and bound by the River Irwell along the eastern boundary. This slide shows the immediate context of the area. Land to the north is in commercial use and the Ellery Wharf apartments are located to the south of the site. This slide also denotes the existing access points to the Riverside Walkway. This slide shows the application site from differing viewpoints to provide some context. The site forms part of a linear strip of land along the River Irwell known as also Riverside. The area is covered by planning guidance which was adopted in 2008. This planning guidance sets down the Council's broad vision for the area and sets out principles to enable high quality development and public realm. This slide is an extract from the master plan within the guidance. It shows the desire to have a building of greater height in this location and create a series of perimeter blocks with active frontage onto main routes. This is the site boundary and the proposed site plan showing how the site will be laid out. Vehicle access is taken from Derwent Street and car parking is provided at surface level for 14 cars. The scheme proposes to upgrade the public realm between the end of Derwent Street down to the Riverside Walkway, and this allows for the main entrance into the building to be located on the southern side of the building. The scheme also allows for a widening a section of the Riverside Walkway. The area to the north of the building will provide residents of the development with outdoor amenity space. This is the proposed ground floor plan. I have annotated this to show how the scheme has been designed to maximise activity at ground floor level within the development, with residence facilities and a riverside terrace. The focus of activity is along the east elevation of the building, looking over the river. At this point, the riverside terrace would appear at first floor, given the towpath is set at a lower level. Due to flood constraints, it's not possible to take this down to towpath level. The amenity space, indoor amenity space, turns to the northern corner of the building to overlook the private amenity space, and again round the southern corner of the building to overlook the what's known as the Riverside link. Here is a typical floor plan showing the apartment layout. The development proposes a mix of 1, 2 and 3 bedroom apartments as set out in the officer report. Proposed building is 17 storeys. The elevations have a grid composition with strong vertical and horizontal banding. This image shows the building from across the river. You can see both the entrance into the building from the Riverside link and also the Riverside terrace. This image of the building taken from the north. Again, you can see the Riverside terrace in relation to the walkway and also the private amenity space for residents. Again, from this image taken from the end of Derwent Street, from this angle you can see the car parking and public realm. Scheme will be constructed from brick.
This slide shows how the brickwork has been arranged to create depth to the elevation and visual interest. Final details of all external materials will be secured by condition. This is the indicative landscape scheme for the site. This is a small. This site is small and has an unusual shape where the development fills the plot. The majority of the site is hard surfaced. However, soft landscaping has been incorporated where possible, and in the form of a green wall within the private amenity space, deciduous trees, ornamental planting, amenity grass and wildflower areas. The final landscape scheme will be secured by condition. In addition to the on-site public realm works connecting Derwent Street to the Riverside Walkway, which will be provided as part of the scheme, a financial contribution of £475,000 has been secured following the review of the applicant's viability appraisal. This will be directed towards the projects listed on this slide. Please note that this list differs from that published, as it now includes the provision of affordable housing, which was missed. The Section 106 will also secure permissive rights along the upgraded public realm route, and a clawback provision will be written into the legal agreement, and any money secured by clawback will be directed to the projects above. To conclude, it is considered that the scheme will deliver a high-quality development which delivers regeneration in accordance with the planning guidance, all being comprehensively assessed in the officer report. It would represent a sustainable form of development that will meet objectives of the relevant policies within the adopted UDP, the draft local plan. As such, the application is recommended for approval, subject to the conditions outlined in the report, and the applicant completing a Section 106 in line with the updated heads of terms. Slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Thank you so much. Do you have any objections? Nope. The applicants written. Although it's not material, over the last 21 years, we've had 6 planning applications on the site. It's all been. Are we getting this one if it gets approved?
Chair. This awkward, circular shaped of brownfield land situated between the Canal and Derwent Street to the west. To the north of the site is the vehicular car park associated with the Grosvenor Casino, McDonald's and KFC. South, box known as Lowry Wharf, and a narrow pedestrian walkway providing a currently comprises an unsightly area of land. It has been in excess of 10 years. Much of the surrounding area has been redeveloped and pieces of the jigsaw to deliver the aspirations of the council along the Riverside corridor. Benefit of a planning permission for residents. The also is a suitable location for taller buildings. The current remains predominantly residential, but is smaller in scale. Only that part which is a safe and durable material, the public realm sits between. It has been opened out to create a safe and appealing route for pedestrians, widening the informal seating and encouraging users to sit and dwell in an area that's currently underused. The applicant has worked cooperatively with both the council and the adjoining landowner to deliver these improvements. The scheme also allows for the widening of the Riverside Walkway to provide a more usable and overlooked route. The proposed development provides 14 car parking spaces, including 1 for mobility impaired, and it also includes 112 cycle spaces for residents and additional cycle parking in the public realm. The approach to access, parking and has been agreed with your highway officers. All other technical matters have been addressed in the submission, and there are no objections from statutory consultees. So viability is a significant issue with this site, but this has been significantly tested with officers. In summary, the proposed development will regenerate a disused plot of brownfield land and create a high-quality landmark building, which will deliver 160 homes and significant improvements to public realm. In doing so, the environmental benefits are an important contribution to the continued regeneration of the Ordsall Riverside Corridor. I therefore ask that you approve the application before you today.
So much. Members, if you are to approve the scheme, could I ask that you delegate the landscaping, the soft landscaping, hard landscaping and the materials to the relevant officer and in consultation with the chair? Is that okay? What's the motion?
So one of my issues with this is along the river walkway at the bottom of the where it's just going to be brick. I think we know over the graffiti that we've had down that area, and I think something that needed to be done to stop that happening on this, because it will happen. And I think if we had to having those panels of some sort of street art, so actually brighten the area up anyway, but also to stop it from being graffitied on, I think it'd be a plus. So if we're looking at material, taking into consideration.
I'm looking at the image on page 1, and I concur with you yourself. That's why I was asking about delegation. Also, there's at the bottom of the stairways, there's some flat for me, don't pass the low female test, and a bit of a chamfer on some of them walls just to give some more angle when you're walking along is going to be a slightly more narrow footway, because we can't change the 8 metres that we want to down it due to the flood risk and the way it is, the nature of it. So yeah, that delegation, work with the ward councillors, because I'm along with the ward council, and tell them to get the finger out and find some money for a lovely piece of art. They could paint a better mosaic than I did down Roden Street Bridge. So yeah, thanks, mate. So members, I'm happy to all the officer's recommendation. That. Councillor Cusack, and anyone want to second that? I've got 2. Okay, all in favour of said with the delegation of materials, the soft and landscaping, and
excuse me, Chair.
Sorry.
Can I?
Sorry, Councillor President.
I mean, generally, scale. The first is parking. Again, very, very low levels of parking, and parking is going to be a big issue in that area. Lots of buildings, not with very, very few parking spaces. The other is for kind of the landmark plot on that room of buildings, and for the height that it is, I probably would have liked to see something with a bit more interesting. It probably will fit in with lots of other uninteresting apartment blocks in the area, so it is in keeping with the area. Because I'm the ward councillor, I've decided to abstain from this vote. I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor President. Councillor Reynolds.
With Councillor President, partly because I disagreed with him before on a previous application. Yeah, like regarding the parking provision, am I right in saying there's only 14 parking spaces? I don't think this is reason to go against the application, which I think it's commendable to have so many spaces, but given the lack of parking provision around that area as well, it is a bit of a concern. But I just wanted to make that note, but I would still be happy to approve the application. But side here, previous ward council secured
funding future budgets will future Odsall Riverside and service the immediate north of these locals. So hopefully it will become an even more in a central location. Now,
I meant to mention that I'm very pleased that that is the section 106 and that the transport improvement clear enough in my opinion. Thanks.
And we could make that argument because also we're happy to take Pence because we know it delivers amenities and services.
That's really good to know.
Been moved and seconded for approval. All in favour, please show. Anyone against? The application has been approved. Thank you so much for your attendance, and we're really great to see this extra plot down on Riverside be delivered. We were told Riverside was not viable and can't put anything down there, and that's just being proved not to be true. So, thank you so much. Okay, members. 6. Okay. So item 7. It says might be a bit policy light, and so we need to rely on our housing guidance for the first appeal on HMO that we lost. We know members, we're just here to apply policy. You know, we can send feedback to the and resources are very tight at the moment in planning policy terms because. But then, could we just have a quick look at the future creation of an SP houses the multiple? Just to
yeah, I think in the inspector's report that we were, and as we've mentioned on a number of occasions in this forum and others, I understand the argument thing that is built up to. However, I don't think that actions that we have against adds a level of control of Salford desperately. I think members of this panel have made of density. Only look at line that there are other means of assessing they could be taken in see what's actually happening on the ground, and I am concerned about over-concentration. I'm desperately concerned. I'm not against aid for HMOs. I think the control better than we're doing at the moment, Chair.
Right. So, over to yourself.
When the new plan is adopted, that has a. I think to do that, so that obviously the council has approved. The next to develop a planning document, which is the more effective as much. I think it's forward to the discussions over what the appropriate unresolved objections. I suspect what we mean by a tricky one to work out. I think it'll be interesting to see where we get to in terms of what a threshold might be. I think between phases are coming up soon, which will be, I think it's really tricky. we've had a conversation with the housing colleagues as well, who've told us they'll be able to tell us at the moment. I think they've got fewer than we've got so far, so we're pretty sure that's not all of them.
Yes, Chair. I totally understand Councillor arguments. I guess Councillor Tressidon, HMOs here because there's too many. That issue, it skew it towards pushing into areas of experiencing. I'm always worried about consequences. You take an action and you get which is the opposite. Basically, we need to change. The system is pushing particularly pay for a decent, regardless of how many we as a city. We need to thousands of people on the housing waiting list, but there will be a lot of people that they won't get housing for anything other than a single route. Growth of HMOs, that's the root causing developers buying up our houses and developing a benefit system which allows me to live in reasonable accommodation and gets this whole argument about, well, you can have some, but we don't want them in our bit. But as in other places, and yet every time we use one, I think you can get a few more in. It's a new point now because of the use plan, but just because we put it in a policy isn't necessarily going to mean that the inspector is going to agree with us.
Exactly. I'm going to roll on what we.
What I'm aiming to do, what I think is a local policy, all that we find unacceptable in our communities better than we are doing at the moment. Now, I accept absolutely that it won't necessarily give the require them to give to this edition. It's critical that we've got as best an argument we see about ethnicity policy. I'm going to build up to it. Areas where it's absolutely so. I just that's it, but I do think that we need a serious think, and I know Mr. Shuttleworth's thinking. I do have.
Okay, Councillor, and then I'm going to move on if you don't mind.
Probably isn't the time. Apartments in the Airbnb as well. You know, we're having, so it's a bit totally frustrating, and that's my.
We've got by the inspectorate, which has informed us today about how they're feeling, and they're in Whitehall, wherever they. Sorry. Oh, in Bristol.
I just know the members that aren't on the panel, I need it as well. HMOs are coming through, they're coming to the panel.
And at the same time as we're getting them as rubbing up against that. We need that on some way as well. I'm a bit worried about what the statement was, though, was that it might be better on lesser, large. We don't want the massive communication that's going out to residents through the MEN as well. That the government is not on our side on that argument. it's already given permission to those poles before we even got to decide.
I know whose fault it is. Yeah, I don't agree.
And it's a frustrating place, but we did what we could do for our community because they were harmful.
So going back to the mono poles that have been refused by the inspectorate, is that they've got no right of appeal?
Not as been, no.
Oh, that's good news.
So those sites not going to happen.
But blot on the landscape.
Councillor.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's interesting if you go to where X1 are suggesting they're going to put their poles up, there's lots of cars parked. Where they're going to try and put their poles up, and residents have taken it in turns to rotate their cars, so there's always a car there. So I think that's a demonstration of the strength of feeling and frustration that that this can go on. But yeah, we'll see.
I like the appeal
We can't
section.
even get double yellows down because no one's ever not parked there.
I like the appeal section. We get the chance to put the world to right, but then again, sometimes we get told off by the inspector and we don't. But it's a good old argument, isn't it? So, are you happy to note the appeals, appeals reports? Is that okay? Okay, I don't have any other items. There's no urgent business. There's nothing like that. Thank you ever so much for taking part in the live stream. If you're still there, thank you so much. Mr. Williams, could you close